Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Collecting Keys podcast, specifically the Mike and Dan show. So every Wednesday, Mike and Dan, that's me, I'm Mike DeHaan, this is Dan Austin. We talk about everything business, real estate, the economy, and whatever else is on our mind at the time. So thanks for joining us today. But
this is the episode you can expect me, Dan, to bring the BDE. The Big Dan interview.
Man, that's like
a
terrible dad joke. Did your daughter tell you that one or what? But
I hope she did not tell me that one. She does say some funny shit, but she's not at that level.
I'm gonna start saying that around your daughter. It's like, oh, you like she's like feeling sassy. Well, first she never talked to me, so I was like,
some big dad
energy. Yeah, she's gonna go to school and tell everyone she's got BDE today.
Oh my god! Please don't bring that up. Like, I'm gonna get punished for all the shit that I used to tell my nephews when they were younger, when they were like my daughter's age. I used to say messed up shit to them all the time to get them to do stupid stuff around my brothers. I'm gonna get punished for that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hope so. It's only about the highest karma, especially because I think you got the lone daughter too, so you got a lot more.
I've got the only girl in the family.
Yeah. But anyway, so well, thanks for joining us today, guys. This is I guess for all of you, Happy New Year. We are recording this before the New Year's, but you're going to be listening to it afterwards. So
post-Christmas, before New Year recording.
Yeah, for us, but the post-New Year's release. Today we are going to be diving into, I guess, kind of a look at where our business stands and some of our predictions going into the new year and some of the stuff we're going to be dealing with going into the new year to hopefully help you sort of predict what you're going to do and hopefully overcome some of the bullshit that we're dealing with that come out to the end of the year. So anyways, guys, go and leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this episode and share it with anyone who has any interest in real estate, finance, or any of that. That is the easiest way for us to start growing. So continue growing. We've been growing pretty well, so I can't complain. But yeah, so we have been having all sorts of fun stuff going on, though, to wrap up the year, especially with the weather associated. It all just seemed like it was, rolling pretty well with a lot of our properties. We were talking about it's going to be nice to have things stabilized a little bit. Right. And then we've just had, as happens when you own a bunch of rental properties, just issues popping up.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of funny how that happens. It's like everything's quiet for a long time, and then all of a sudden it's just like pop, 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 pop.
It always comes in waves, too. I don't know why, because we were kind of in the clear for a little bit. But I think the weather definitely doesn't help, and this is one of the downsides of living somewhere where we have seasons. You can see why people say, like, oh, I'm only going to buy properties in the Sun Belt where everybody's old, so they don't hurt my properties, and they don't have weather, so nothing ever breaks.
Seriously, like, I wonder what that's like, because wintertime is, like, this time of year, it's just always seems to, like, think, and it's because it gets so cold here. Like, the heat extremes that we get versus the cold extremes that we get, things like move in houses. Like, things break because they move, like they shift, right? Like, we had the big one we're dealing with, which this is interesting. We should talk through this, and I'd love to get feedback from any listeners that would have done it differently. But we had pipes. I don't know that they froze or what happened because they were actually in the house, but they started leaking. So the kitchen sink started leaking. 2 weeks before this, we got a request that the hot water tank was leaking and we needed to replace it. And I was like, okay. And this property was under a property manager, unfortunately. No more. We fired them as of 2 days ago.
Again, if you guys have listened over the past couple months, this is we've already fired for these property managers from other properties, so it's just not looking good for them.
So it's not looking good for them. So where was I at? Okay, anyhow, so we replaced this hot water tank. It cost us more than if we would have just done it ourselves, right, through our contractors, all that, whatever. Well, then fast forward 2 weeks to a few days ago, get an urgent call, which, mind you, this is under property management. Why am I getting the call? I shouldn't be, right? But it's like the tenant's last resort. She has my phone number from another issue that I made the mistake of texting her. This was like last year or something like that. Anyways, so what it comes out is that underneath the floor when she walks on it, she's walking basically on water, but it's not wet. It's just the floating floor is floating on frickin' water. We had brand new flooring installed when we bought this thing, and so turns out, so we end up having to put her in a hotel room because we got to completely rip all the flooring. So this is what we did. This is where I'd love to get feedback on what people have done. We've never had I don't think we've ever had this major issue, or most tenants that we've had are like, no, I'm good, I'll chill. Like if you guys just want to fix that bathroom or you guys want to do this. So this tenant specifically is kind of a, I don't want to say pain in the ass, but she's, just kind of is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So we, again, not a tenant we placed. So we put her up in a hotel room, and of course now she wants like meal tickets and stuff like that to like pay for her meals and all these sorts of things. And so it's like 100. We were looking at like Airbnbs, couldn't find one. Anyways, I was like, she has 2 kids. I was like, just pick something you want. If it's within reasonable price, we'll pay for it. Got her hotel, comes with free breakfast, all these sorts of things. So she's out for about 5 days doing that. Of course, she's still texting me wanting no updates on this whole thing, which again, I got to block her number soon and get her to start texting our actual in-house property manager that we have now. So what it turns out to be, it's a 1950s built home. It has galvanized plumbing in the walls from the kitchen sink. There's all these connections behind the wall. Those connections basically came apart, which is they're metal and they're screwed together. So it would be hard to come apart. So it's a combination of old and rotted and just the cold weather kind of moving shit, right? Like we talked about. And it was leaking from behind the kitchen cabinet underneath the floor. So we got our guy in there. He started doing all this troubleshooting. Right, it's not good. And so at the same exact time, the electric heaters in the home stopped working, and we ended up having to like rewire a bunch of stuff and put in new electrical panels from the old fuse boxes. Things we would have loved to do on this property, plumbing and electrical, when we first bought it, but we did not have the money. You and I talked about this. Like we did everything we could for that property to do what we needed to do. Hindsight, would we have upgraded some of that stuff? Absolutely. But we didn't touch the kitchen, so there's no need to mess with the plumbing. We didn't touch anything electrical, so there's no need to mess with electrical. So it was like these things that we just didn't have the time and money to do, and we didn't really need to do them at the time. And now they're kicking us in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the way it goes though too with these things is, everyone. It's funny. I posted about that on my Instagram at Mike_invest if you guys want to check me out there. But people were commenting, it's like, oh, that's why you replace all the plumbing when you do a rehab. I'm like, I know, we didn't freaking do a rehab. Yeah. We left it alone.
Exactly.
And also too, we were, like you said, we were at a position where we were starting the business. This was several years ago, and we were super budget conscious. And we knew that we were playing with fire and that it was going to be future Mike and Dan's problem. And so we just opted to do that.
And it is future Mike and Dan's problem.
And now the future is
And
here.
here's the thing. Here's the thing is like with that, I agree. Like, me, like I'm all about over rehabbing, and I rehab things that people don't see. I love to redo electrical. I love to redo plumbing because then I know it's perfect. This is one of those things where like the cabinets were bulletproof. Mm-hmm. Like why would we replace kitchen cabinets? It was like everything was good and clean. And we knew that plumbing is old, and we have other 1950s properties, but to replace it, you're cutting open walls, you're doing all sorts of shit. We're replacing it now because not only was that that connection bad, like the whole main sewer connection was actually cast iron, and it was coming apart from, I think, just like the expanding and contracting of hot and cold from the seasons. Yeah. And it just finally, this was the year. It was pretty cold there for a week. And so this was the final year that it just all came apart.
Dude, it was super cold. We had like a 60-degree temperature swing over a couple of days because it was like minus 20, and then all of a sudden it was like 40 degrees 48 hours later. And that stuff's not good for anything.
No, absolutely not. And so that temperature swing is what kicks your ass. So if you live in a market where you have like huge temperature swings, basically anything like, I don't know, like above like whatever that line would be north of that line, like this year especially, you get your ass kicked. And this year too, the last couple of years, if you lived in other states like Texas and whatnot, you also had some problems. But it does cost you a lot of money. It is a pain in the ass when you have these major temperature swings. But the resolution, we're getting the plumbing all fixed up, all the leaks are done. We were able to, it's a floating floor, which I love. It's like that tap lock flooring. We pulled it all up. Unfortunately, it was all kind of screwed up, so we had to buy new stuff. But, I mean, that stuff lays back down. So within a day and a half, we already had it all gutted, cleaned up. We bleached the floors, did all that mold mitigation to make sure we don't have mold, dehumidifier, get all the moisture out of it. Floors are already back in. And today, which would be day, I guess, 2.5, they're replumbing everything and having it set up and should be done by the end of the day. So pretty quick turnaround.
And that's awesome. And that's why it's so important to build these contacts as well. And also to have, a reserve set up. I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of people make when they get into rental properties is they don't account for future problems. And this drives me crazy with different influencers that you see online is they'll be like, oh, I have this property that I bought that has $1,000 a month payment. I rent it out for $2,000 a month. I make $1,000 a month on this property. It's like, that is just 100% not true. And even if you
make $500 a month on it, if you properly have reserves, and then it's going to take you a year to build those reserves of that $500 being $6,000. You know what I mean? And so,
exactly. And they fail to look at the aggregated cost of the large items. So even if they make $1,000 a month for a year, right? Eventually, you're going to have that $5,000, $6,000 fix. Like, I don't know what this is going to cost us, Dan. What's your ballpark estimate?
It's going to be about $5,000-$6,000.
Which honestly seems to be about the standard price for when you have, I would say, like oopsie stuff that happens. Like, honestly. Yep. And so you need to take that $5,000, $6,000, figure that's going to cost you $500 a month, right? If you save that up every single month, and that's going to be your real cash flow off the $2,000 rent with a $1,000 payment. Put $500 aside for your reserves that is going to eventually going to have to get paid. Regardless of when it happens, like it will happen. Like your property, even if it's a new house, there will be an issue at some point.
There's always an issue, or there's a major tenant turn that something crazy happens. It's just law of averages. It's going to happen. That's why I always recommend when you stabilize a new property, like just for that first year, unless you have just like outrageously high cash flow, for that first year, you don't take any money from it. All your cash flow goes to building up reserves until you get to a point to where, I don't know, say you have 10 properties and you've got, I don't know, like 25, 30,000 reserves. You don't need to do that. Right now you have $25,000 to $30,000 in reserves to cover your properties. And there's a scale factor of what you should feel comfortable with. But like you should just always think about that. Like, all my cash flow for first 12 months goes to reserves for this property, because inevitably, it might not be till year 5, but inevitably that happens. And once you have that good base of reserves for your portfolio or for each property, however you set it up, like, then you're good. Then you can start peeling off cash flow like nobody's business, and like you get to keep that and you get to spend that on your Ferrari. But until then, make sure you're covered, because there's nothing worse than being like, oh crap, I have $5,000 in the bank and I just had a $5,000 accident and now I have no money for the next accident, and you're putting it on your credit card.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why, when you see these, it's always like younger people too, which, I fall into this. If they're like, oh, we bought 5 properties this year and now I make $5,000 a month in cash flow and now we travel Europe full time. They are either 1, lying to you, B, they're on the brink of financial disaster, or 3, they're trying to sell you something, and that is actually their main business, is selling you some bullshit, right? Which is,
if their sales pitch is like, I bought this house and my mortgage payment is $1,200 and I rent it out for $1,500 and I cash flow $300, they're wrong.
In fact, they're probably
they just
losing
missed
money
like
on
all
that.
of the other stuff. Yeah, exactly. They just missed all the other stuff that's in between, including what I always call set asides, which is that CapEx and OpEx set aside every month that you have for a property.
Yeah, and
because you're going to use it.
Yeah, and people always ask like, what is an appropriate amount to set aside? Some people say like 10%. Like, we've always kind of operated from the zone of like, we want to have $10,000 to $15,000 per property that's just sort of sitting there, and we build up that reserve and then we take cash flow after that. What makes sense for you, you can kind of can kind of figure that out for yourself. And like, one thing I will say as well is, you can be slightly less conservative with that if you have high income. You have like other forms of income, right, that are, especially connected to real estate stuff, where you can make pretty decent money. Like, that's the one thing that we have the advantage of, is because, we wholesale, we flip properties, we have other business, we do these things. We don't have to be as conservative. But if you're working a $60,000 a year job, right, you probably can't afford a random $5,000 like issue that pops up out of the blue. That's going to be an entire month of your paycheck, right? So you need to look at your financial picture to figure that out. So that was our major year-end ass kicker. Then we had a bunch of other little things that happened, like hot water tanks here. Yeah, we had that. Well, then I had one of my personal rentals where I also had a water issue, which has happened randomly over the past 3 years, and we could never figure out why. And I think we finally found the problem this time when they went and snaked it, looking for roots, and they found a bunch of tampons that were stuck in the sewer line.
Those are feminine hygiene products for those others out there.
For those of you guys in the States that don't believe in women's rights. But that's probably a lot of our listeners. I shouldn't make that joke.
I don't know how you got to that point. I just was saying the proper name for it. You come up with women that need to be locked in basements.
I mean, we have several states in our country that borderline think that.
Yeah, that's true.
But,
Okay, I'll get
all right, let's get past that. But yeah, so and that was kind of like I'm glad that we have a resolution of that, because it's something that's occurred 3 times now. It always results in issues, and I could never figure out what the hell it was. And now it appears that was a pretty definite cause. So now we can send them a notice.
It's funny because when you told me that. Yeah. When you told me that, I was just like, I have like signs in my student rentals, because I don't know that all young women know that, like you're not supposed to do that. And I guess, young women, never mind. I was going to say something else, but young women, I don't know that they necessarily always know that. And like, I have a sign next to my toilets in my
which is funny that they wouldn't know that. Have they ever been to a public bathroom in like any restaurant or gas station or anywhere where they always have signs that say not to flush feminine products down the toilet? I don't know, man.
I don't know.
But anyway,
I think that sometimes just don't care.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. And it's like,
well, and you said there's like what, four adult women living there?
Yeah, so there's like a mom and 2 daughters that live there. So who knows who the culprit is? But either way, that was my main dilemma going into the holiday winter period. And of course, it floods downstairs and it like messes up half their living area. It always occurs. It always seems to occur around the holidays. Right, just these things always do. Like people need to go and end up in hotels or things like that. Fortunately, because it's a 4-bed, 2-bath place, they have like a lot of room, so I don't have to go that route. But it's harder to find work and things like that around Christmas and New Year's as well. So it just has to sit and have to deal with it, on a more prolonged schedule than I would really like. But
our duplex flooding was like on Christmas. I was like, cool.
Yeah,
no,
of course.
I got our typical handyman. I texted him several days ago. I finally just got a message back.
Is that Dustin?
And I was like, he's like, I'm heading to the mountains. Yeah. I'll call you when I get back. I was like, that's like a week later, dude. You all right, bro?
Yeah, right. Honestly, he's probably out filming Bigfoot. That's like his side gig. Is he's like the lead videographer for Bigfoot hunters. Isn't that weird? Like weird in like an awesome way. Like you never would guess that.
That's why. Have you seen the tailgate on his pickup? It's a naked Sasquatch.
Is it really?
Laying down.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. It's like a hairy naked Sasquatch, like airbrushed onto this tailgate.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's
I never noticed that. That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's our business woes and our ups and downs, and going into the new year right now. I mean, we're still trying to sort of figure out like our total view on everything. I mean, for our business, we have.
Yeah.
We've started working with all these different partners with our partnership program. So right now we're working on optimizing what a lot of those marketing and sales processes look like. So if you guys are new here, we have our Collecting Keys 7-Figure Investor program, which is our group coaching program. And as a premium sort of offering to that, we have like our marketing and partnerships programs, where basically it's the same thing, where we teach people how to run full-time real estate businesses and how to be wholesalers, but with our partnership and marketing programs, basically we do a lot of the heavy lifting. It's an additional cost associated with it, but you don't have to come and figure out as much of the BS. It's for people that maybe have a little bit more money than time, or they want to press like the quick start button on the whole thing. But like we're working on really optimizing those right now, figuring out the best marketing tactics in all these various markets that we're working in, and helping people sort of, I guess, solve their investment goals going into the new year as much as our own. So that's kind of been our main focus. And then, I mean, locally for our investment stuff, trying to figure out whether we want to keep pursuing buy and holds with the higher interest rates, whether we just want to sort of stack cash and stabilize things. It's kind of like a weird time, I guess, because it's almost like you don't want to give up all of your dry powder, your cash on deals when it feels like there's going to be really, really good stuff coming up here.
It feels like it's not there yet, but you also don't want to like miss the opportunity. But it's like, you and I looked at a pocket listing last night from a realtor. That was like a decent deal. It's like, okay. Yeah. Like we're looking at it, but I'm like, I don't want any interest in that because it's not like the perfect purchase. And I can just go on Zillow right now and look at other duplexes that I'd rather own that I'm not buying right now, that are like last year would have been sold like snap of a finger.
Totally.
For way too much money. They're still listed for too much in my opinion, but like I can go out there and reasonably, I know I could go buy a multifamily property in Spokane.
Yeah,
for okay price. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's the change in the economic times as well that you need to sort of start to consider is when times are good, you can, I guess, be a little bit more impulsive with your purchases. You can take a little bit more risk. You can sort of stick your neck out there a little bit more. And, it's easier to get FOMO when it's like that, but I also think you can get away with it. Yeah. When times are kind of stagnant or they're going backwards, although I've been hearing a lot of people say that, people are talking about 2023 recession. A lot of people are saying that the recession's already happened and 2023 is going to be kind of like the leveling out. But when you start to get into that more negative period, it's always that fine balance of like, you just need to be more selective about your deals, and you do want to save your cash for when the best deals come around, kind of like you said. It's important not to get FOMO, but to always be putting yourself in a position where you're going to be able to capitalize on the good stuff that comes, and also knowing what exactly that looks like to you, right? Because that's another thing people say, like, how do I know if it's a great deal? It's like, well, you got to kind of look at your own investment goals and your own long-term goals.
Yeah, you have to look long-term. Like, what do you believe like is going to happen in the next 12 months? Mm-hmm. Why do you believe that, and how do you make decisions based on your investment goals with that being your context? Like for me, I personally think that there's probably going to be more opportunity in 2023 than there has this year. I don't think it's going to be crazy, dripping with opportunity. But I just think there's going to be a better opportunity. So I don't want to make a decision now that uses my cash, because a lot of things you're doing right now, unfortunately, does suck up your cash. If you're buying right now, it's going to suck up your cash because interest rates are so high, and it's going to be really hard to get financing or some sort of BRRRR property. Like the cash out refinances are just tougher right now.
Yeah, and
they're just tough. So you're going to have to be locking money up if you're buying.
Yeah, and I think that's especially true if you have a long-term mindset, which you should if you're going to be a real estate investor, where it's like, realistically, you miss out on stuff in the next 6 to 8 months. Who really cares? Because over the next 10 years, if you're going to be actively looking for things, there will be opportunities that come around, which make those ones that you passed on not that big of a deal. Right. That's a good transition, though. So what do you think? What are your predictions going into 2023? I've been, reading a lot, like other people's predictions, like what exactly, experts are thinking, what exactly, our peers are thinking. And I think the general verdict is people have no idea. I think
as usual, nobody has any friggin' idea.
Nobody has any idea. I think the one thing that is mutually agreed upon by everyone is that next year is not going to be like a rocket ship year, but a lot of people are saying it's going to be like the year where they're fueling the rocket ship for when stuff potentially starts to take off again in 2024 and 2025.
I think so. Yeah. Here's what I guess I'll just put out on the table what I know. What I know is that I still think there's a lot of cash on the sidelines ready to go. I still think there's a lot of money in the system, which makes it difficult for anything to like just completely disappear and like be that rock bottom like 2008, which everybody thinks about, right? From a real estate market standpoint, I was just looking at statistics. So the severely behind mortgage number, which is like you're behind your mortgage by 3 months, is trending downward still. November 2021, it was at 1.3%, and now it's at 0.64%. So like half of last year. In 2010, that number was 5.5%. So like that, there's not that many people behind on their mortgage is what I'm saying. On top of that, we already know tons of people have a ton of equity. And so if you bought in 2019 or before, you're not going to lose. You're not going to go upside down in your house, I believe. 2020, I don't think so. I bought a new house in 2020. I still have vast amounts of equity in it. You start getting the 2021, you could potentially go upside down. 2022, you're probably upside down in your house right now, which isn't a bad thing because, again, only 0.64% of people are 3 months or behind on their mortgage. So you're not going to, if all those people that were out there saying, I can't wait till the market fails or it goes upside down, I'm going to buy all these houses. A, no, you're not. Interest rates are too high. B, no, you're not, because there's no foreclosures. Where are the foreclosures at? They're not coming out, at least from what the national statistics are showing. So I think there's a lot of money, to recap that, still on the sidelines that can be infused. Given the opportunity, they will jump into the market, which will keep the market buoyed. The real estate market, I don't see it failing and just bottoming out. I do see some prices resetting and trending down. And we still don't know when the interest rates are going to stop climbing. I know that they're going to keep increasing rates through Q1. I don't see why they would stop. Yeah. So with that being said, like there's like this people aren't buying, people aren't selling because the interest rates are still going up. They're still trying to get inflation. There's still money on the sidelines, which is helping to buoy inflation as well. So we're kind of like, to your point, Mike, 2023 is like this weird year. Is it going to be a recession, or is the recession past? I don't really care about that. I just know that 2023 is not going to be a super terrible year. It's not going to be a super good year.
Yeah, and and that seems to be kind of the mutual opinion. So like looking at different headlines, like Realtor.com, their chief economist said that their expectation is going to be like a nobody's market, pretty much, with high price point homes and people not wanting to go with the equity, but with limited buying options just because of the affordability issue that we have, and the interest rates are going to remain high. Bloomberg said that they think that they're not expecting to see any change downward in the interest rates until potentially Q3, if not Q4 of next year. So they think that it'll stick around for most of the year. That being said, a lot of different people are saying that they think that the stock market will start to make a comeback, which is always an interesting thing, because like the thing with real estate is just because the asset prices move slower than stocks is, real estate tends to mirror the stock market, but just in kind of like a delayed fashion. So, the stocks already tanked. Real estate came down a few months later. If stocks start to go up again, you can expect real estate to kind of do the same. Just historically, that's what's
maybe 3 to 6 months behind that, right?
Exactly, yeah. So, like it's everyone's sort of seeing it as being like the rebounding year, and the something that I've heard say a lot is that, people are talking about recession risks in 2013. I'm 10 years behind. 2023. Many people are saying the recession has already happened, and just for political reasons, we had midterms this year, we had all sorts of stuff going on this year. No one in the federal government was going to admit that.
They're not going to admit it. And also in their defense, the unemployment rate didn't change. Like, it's still like record low. So they're saying, so you're thinking like, people have jobs. In fact, we can't even fill all the jobs we have. There's still money on the sidelines, which everybody knows that. Like, is this really a recession? It doesn't feel like a recession, but I believe that yes, technically it was.
Yeah, and something that I heard on another podcast, actually, that was a really interesting view on the employment side of it was, there's so much news right now about these massive layoffs from tech companies and, kind of like these luxury-based companies, right?
Right.
Netflix, all this sort of stuff. And who really gives a shit about this? Like, honestly, if you like it sucks for those people. Yeah. If you look at the big picture of the economy, those are not indicative of the economy, because it is them.
They don't create anything.
Well, yeah, they create luxury items, and also too, they were inflated because their stocks were ridiculous, right? And they needed to, they had money to burn. They were bringing on people. They were building in redundancies.
Right.
Now that stocks have gone down, they are, eliminating all that unnecessary overhead. But if you look at the companies that actually are indicative of the healthy economy, like industry, right? So companies like they were saying, Walmart, you look at some like the home building companies, things like that. All of those people are aggressively hiring and cannot find enough people.
Right. Well, it's like they actually create tangible things. So like what if Twitter went away tomorrow? Like, what is that creating other than jobs? Like, it's not really creating much like gross domestic product value, like you're saying, like manufacturing, home building, like in construction is like one of the biggest leading things for our economy, right? That's what just fuels jobs.
Yeah, and even though home building has slowed down, those companies are still aggressively hiring people to try and get the stuff done that they do have on the books.
So they still have,
or same with like grocery stores, logistics companies. And like I said, Twitter could go away, Netflix could go away, your life would not change at all. Right? Like I mean, what would suck, like you'd have less fun stuff to do, but like if you look at your actual life, like it's not that big of a deal. If, like the grocery store logistics companies, if those go away, you're kind of fucked. And they're still, aggressively trying to find people to come and, keep their
and there's supply chain shortages too in those types of hard products and commodities still too. So that's why I think we're still seeing inflation buoyed up, is there's still shortages of things.
Yeah. Which
could probably, and I don't know for sure, but could probably be tied to the fact that they can't find people to work these jobs.
Probably. Yeah.
But I will say there's going to be some Twitter programmers that are now going to be working in the supply chain.
Yeah.
Because they don't have jobs.
I mean, maybe. What is your take on this rise of automation and robots in a lot of these different service industries, though? You're starting to see it everywhere. So like they just opened the first fully automated McDonald's, I think it was in Texas. And And then if you look overseas as well, I actually saw this headline talking about how you can book if you're going to China on business, you can book a self-driving chauffeur to drive you around as part of like one of the main, business chauffeur companies. Instead of them sending a driver, they send an automated car that will drive you around the Chinese roads. So they have their own self-driving car.
I think that we're going to see. I think we're going to see a lot of low-skilled jobs disappear that aren't going to be needed in the next 10 to 20 years, and I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like low skill and even high skill. So last week you heard us joke about the AI chat stuff and how we were gonna.
Dude, that shit is badass.
I know, and I was saying it super sarcastically about how I was going to use it to build all these SOPs and these different things. Well, it's pretty sweet because we're doing it.
Dude. I need to get a referral code. What is it called? What is the website called?
Well, it's free, so there's no referral code. We've just been using Chat GPT, which is the main one that you see a lot of people use because it's free.
It's sick.
But there's the Jasper AI one, which is a paid service, and I've been doing some more research. It might be worth paying for just because of how much more in depth of instructions you can give it. But we're currently putting together processes for our sales teams and for other things right now, and you can just tell it I want you to write a follow-up process for this kind of lead, and it just spits it out. And it's not perfect. You can't just do it and copy and paste it and say I'm done. But it gives you the framework that will go and make that from being a 2-hour task to a 15-minute task to a 30-minute task.
It's amazing.
Right?
Go check out by next week when this thing drops. Go check out my Instagram, InvestorMan Dan. I'm posting a post that I had it write a post of what you should be doing. Flipping versus wholesaling, and it was legit. That's all I typed in. What should it? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's super impressive. But point being, so we have the automation coming in the service industry, right? From trust, things like that, but also in the high skill industry, right? So even right now with a lot of these, you can have them type up code, and there's probably people that listen this is old news, bro. This has been going on for a month. But we're too busy running a business, man. I don't have time to be sitting dinking around with whatever's hot on the internet all the time.
No shit.
But you can have it write code. You can have it create designs. You can have it create custom art and pictures. You can have it create even basic legal stuff. People are using it to write contracts, write papers, do research, and it just does all of it for you. So basically, it takes if you're going to do research, traditionally you would go on Google and say oh, I don't know, I'm going to look up Genghis Khan. Now you can have it go and say tell me about Genghis Khan's empire, and it will actually do it in long form style with something that is more than just having to click through a bunch of different sources to figure out what you're looking for.
Write me a 10,000 word essay with 12-point font on Genghis Khan.
Yeah, I mean honestly, you probably can. You should try that afterwards.
Submit on your blackboard.com for your school.
Yeah, right. Get around the plagiarism and stuff like that. I mean, I've heard about people doing that. I think the question comes is, if everyone has the same prompt and 10 kids go and do the same thing, how similar are they going to be? Right.
They could probably cross-reference the plagiarism to both of them, but if it's AI, it's smart enough to know that.
Yeah, I think I
would type in, write it, and make sure I don't get caught for plagiarism.
Yeah, you give it the instruction.
I think it's smart enough, dude. It's ridiculous. Yeah, you're right. So we're automating a lot of jobs, but I don't think it matters because I do think that there's still creation. There's still creation above these low-skilled, high-skilled jobs that are getting automated that people still need to create and still need to be participants in the economy. And I think regardless, humans will find ways. People are oh, there's a lot of dumb humans out there. Yes, they've always existed and they always will exist. There will be dumb humans that just don't do anything to help themselves. They're not listeners to our podcast. I don't care. But all the vast majority, the bulk of people will find ways to contribute, and they'll create even better and newer stuff. So I'm not worried about this whole automation killing I think what's likely to kill the population is that people just don't have enough kids anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other ballgame we go down to as well. It's a whole other wormhole, I guess you can jump into with that stuff because there's a lot of different factors there. But I don't know. I think what you're saying though there is interesting about there will always be the people that'll be contributing, though those that won't be. And I just think that as the population grows, I mean, it's always a percentage, right? It's 80-20 rule, probably. Honestly, you can say that. And as the population grows and grows, the 20% of people that are contributing 80% of the productivity, it's just going to have to contribute to help more and more people, and that's where stuff's going to get stretched. But,
Sure.
It's interesting. I mean, if you look at a lot of stuff that's coming together. It does kind of remind me like about a lot of those sci-fi movies that you see where it's like, oh, there's like the elites that kind of like, that are super rich and everyone hates them and everyone lives in squalor, but the elites are, if you look at those movies, they're honestly the ones who fucking created everything. Like, they're the ones, like, it's always like the tech billionaire who's actually evil, and all it takes is like 4 generations of like tech billionaires to finally one's like, why do we have like all the cretins down on the planet? Like, why don't we just like not do that and just live in the space station?
Just get rid of
right. Exactly. And then, like freaking Matt Damon or whatever comes and is like, we gotta take these down the space station, and then it always ends with the guy getting killed, and then life still sucks for everyone. So nice job. You just made it terrible. But
yeah, that's basically like reality.
I know, it's like reality.
That's the life we live.
Anyway, so yeah, we'll see how all that comes together. But cool. But yeah, so I guess general verdict coming into the new year. No one really knows. I
call it a stalemate.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a stalemate, I think, is the main consensus. And our primary strategy is going to be one of patience and consistency. And I would say that as you are making investment decisions, be a little bit more conservative about it. And the one thing that we have proven to be true over and over again, though, is that if you are buying high-quality assets at a discounted price, you really can't lose. Like, honestly, it's just, absolutely. And you do that over a prolonged period of time with a long-term time horizon, you cannot lose if you do that. So,
yeah, and don't take that advice as taking 12 months off because you're just not sure, because I don't know how many investing months or years you get in your life. Maybe it's 40 or 60. Are you really willing to give one up because you just wanted to sit on the sidelines? I think you still got to make moves. You just got to be conservative about them and make them in context of what you're trying to do in the larger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so here's what I'll say. I'll finish off. Here are the three best investments that you can make going in 2023, right? So it'll be the 3 best. So first one will be, a financial investment will be buying discounted real estate, right? That is one that you can mathematically prove the return at the point of purchase, right? You can say, like, this house is worth $400,000. I'm buying it for $300,000. I automatically have a spread right there. That's going to be a very high ROI on my money, okay? Whether you sell it, keep it, it's a paper game, whatever. Second one will be investing in your network, okay? Now, especially while times are low, spend money, join masterminds, get around people that are doing big things now or want to do things in the future, and don't be afraid to, like, spend good money to be around people. Like, people always say, like, why do these groups cost like 10 grand? It is a barrier to entry to keep out the people that shouldn't be there. Sure. Yeah, it sucks that we've joined groups and we've had that hesitation of spending that money. But if you can come over that hurdle and you go into those groups and you create value and you look to receive value as well, you would be surprised at the incredible amount of growth you can get from that. And the third thing I would say is invest in your education, right? Don't be afraid to spend money on that either. Like, you can learn a lot from the school of YouTube, but after a while you will reach a limitation on that, because I hate to say it, but like, the best people do want you to pay for, their customized help. So like, we just hired a business coach that we paid really good money for, going into this new year, but
the most we've ever paid.
Most we've ever paid for anything, honestly. Yeah.
Any single person.
Yeah. So, you can go and pay for a coach, pay for courses, pay for, group coaching, whatever that looks like, whatever you can afford. If it's something that you think will help you grow, don't be afraid to spend that money. And, I think especially that one and the networking one, those will be the highest ROI potential, even compared to the discounted real estate, right? Like,
absolutely.
Even like our initial group that we joined, the all-site coaching, we paid $5,000 for that we did not have. Have we 1,000x that money yet? If you look at asset value, sure. We've 2,000x that money, right? We've made millions and millions of dollars thanks to that $5,000 purchase.
That one decision. That's a single decision.
Exactly. So
that's crazy. That is crazy to think about. Mm-hmm. I will add, though, there's an option 4 of what you should be doing, and that would be investing in my new product, which is going to be BDE t-shirts, Big Dad Energy. I think there's something in the market for that. So Mike will get that up on our website, and you guys can pre-order those.
Man, you just threw that out there. All right, I got to make a note. We're going to make some BDE t-shirts. I don't know. You said Big Dad. I like Big Dan Energy better.
Okay, get the Big Dan, and then there'll be a bald guy with his thumbs up on the back. And then it's kind of like the FBI shirts that you get when you're like in like Mexico. It's just like says female body inspector. It's the same thing. They're really popular. A lot of people are gonna love.
Yeah,
It's a great Christmas gift or belated Christmas gift, birthday gift.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right. Well, seriously, I'm gonna put our designer on making those because that would be awesome. We can start having some. We can add that to our Collecting Keys merch. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. Quick side tangent on Collecting Keys merch. If you want a free Collecting Keys T-shirt, they are pretty sick. If you go and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and you send me a screenshot on Instagram, I will send you a free Collecting Keys T-shirt up until we have 50 reviews on there. I think we're at like 30 something right now. Go ahead, leave a 5-star review, send me a screenshot. I'll send you a shirt for free. And keep an eye out for the BDE T-shirts as well that will be coming. So, anyways, guys, thanks so much for listening. Go leave us a 5-star review to get that free shirt, and share this podcast with anyone who has any interest in real estate, investing, business. Two guys just talking nonsense as well. I don't know. I think sometimes we're entertaining. We've been told we're entertaining occasionally.
I have fun.
Yeah, I have fun. That's all that matters, really, at the end of it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, thanks so much for listening, everybody, and talk to you guys next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.